What would you do if the one person you were meant to save appeared in front of you the moment your own heart had given up on life? The wind cut across the valley like a blade as evening settled over the mountains. Snow drifted across the open plains in thin white sheets, and the cold felt sharp enough to bruise skin. The land was quiet, almost too quiet, the kind of silence that made a person feel small against the endless stretch of winter. In that silence, a lone figure stumbled through the frost. Anna Vale held her thin coat tight around her shaking body. Her boots sank into the hard snow with every step. Each breath left her lips in a cloud that faded too fast in the freezing air. She had been walking since dawn, following a trail she hoped would lead to Dry Creek. But the cold had swallowed the world, and she had not seen anyone for hours. Her life had changed faster than she could accept. Her father's store had burned to the ground. Illness had taken him soon after, then debt took the rest. A man offered her a place to stay, but when his kindness turned into something darker, she ran. She ran without a plan, without a coat thick enough for winter, without a clear idea of where she would go. She only knew she had to leave before she lost more than a home. Her knees buckled, and she caught herself against a snow-covered log. Her breath shook in her chest. "Just a little more," she whispered. Then she saw it. A soft glow appeared ahead, swinging in slow arcs. A lantern. A man stood behind it, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark coat and a hat pulled low. A horse stood beside him, stamping its hooves in the snow. "Ma'am?" His voice carried over the wind, deep and steady. "You lost?" Anna tried to speak, but her lips trembled too much. The man stepped closer and lifted the lantern toward her face. The light washed over her pale cheeks, her shaking hands, the exhaustion in her eyes. His expression changed. Not pity, not suspicion, just concern. "You're half frozen," he said quietly. "My place is over that ridge. You can't stay out here." Quote, I don't want to trouble you," she whispered. "You'll be in a lot more trouble if you stay in the cold," he replied gently. He didn't reach for her. He didn't grab her arm. He simply offered his hand. She stared at it for a long moment before placing her trembling fingers in his. His touch was warm and rough, but careful. He helped her onto his horse and climbed up behind her. His coat wrapped around her shoulders as he guided the horse through the snow. The sound of hooves echoed through the quiet valley, steady and strong. By the time they reached his ranch, the sky had turned to deep blue. The small cabin glowed with warm light from inside. Smoke curled from the chimney, and a dog barked softly somewhere behind the barn. The man lifted Anna down and led her into the cabin. Heat surrounded her like a blanket. A fire crackled in the hearth. A pot of stew simmered on the small stove. Boots lined the wall near the door. Everything looked simple but lived in. The home of a man who knew loneliness well. The man pulled off his hat. "Name's Reed Mallister," he said. "You look like you need something warm." "I'm Anna Vale," she replied softly. Reed filled a bowl with stew and handed it to her. She held it with both hands, afraid she might drop it. The first spoonful brought tears to her eyes. It was the first hot food she had tasted in days. Reed watched her from the mantel, his gray eyes calm like winter rivers. "You come far?" he asked. "Too far," she murmured. "I didn't have anywhere else to go." He nodded slowly. "You can rest here tonight." Storms picking up again. "Why would you help me?" she asked. "You don't even know me." Reed looked at the fire. "I know what cold can do to a person. Lost my wife to winter 2 years back. If I can spare someone the same hurt, I ought to." Silence wrapped around them. Not heavy, just still. Anna finished eating and Reed handed her a folded quilt. "You can sleep in the cot by the window," he said. "It's clean." "Thank you, Mr. Mallister." "Reed will do." She lay down on the cot, exhaustion pulling her under. Before she fell asleep, she whispered, "You're kind." Quote, Reed didn't turn right away. He stared into the fire and answered softly, "Not kind. Just trying to make the world a little less cold." Morning brought weak sunlight through the frosted window. Anna sat up slowly. The smell of coffee filled the cabin. Reed stood by the stove, pouring 2 mugs. "There's bread and honey on the table," he said. You didn't have to make breakfast, she murmured. Didn't have to, he said with a small smile. Wanted to. They ate quietly. For the first time in a long time, Anna didn't feel fear sitting across from someone. After breakfast, he asked, "Where will you go next?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe Dry Creek." "I was hoping to find work." "There's work here too," he said. "Cabin needs fixing. Horses need tending. I can pay you if you're able." "You'd hire me?" she asked softly. "You look like you've got grit," he said. "Most folks don't." "I don't want charity." Didn't offer any. Just fair work for fair effort. Their eyes met, holding a quiet truth neither knew how to name. And then he said the words that made her heart stop. "I need love," Reed whispered, "and you need shelter." Anna froze, breath caught in her throat. But before she could speak, he added gently, "Don't worry, Miss Vale, I'm not asking for anything. Just saying, maybe both of us been walking in the cold too long." His words settled warm in the air between them, gentle and real. The storm clouds gathered again that afternoon, heavy and low, rolling over the mountains like an old warning. Reed stepped outside to bring in more firewood, his boots crunching over the packed snow. Inside the cabin, Anna stood by the window, wrapped in his spare coat. It smelled faintly of pine and smoke, the scent of a man who worked with his hands and carried the weight of too many winters alone. She watched him for a moment. His shoulders moved slow and steady, the way someone moved after years of carrying losses. But there was something gentle in the way he bent to lift the logs, something careful in the way he worked, a man shaped by grief, but not hardened by it. When he came back inside, the warm air wrapped around both of them. "You don't have to help with chores," Reed said as he set the wood by the hearth. "I want to," Anna replied. "I need to feel useful again." Reed glanced at her, surprised by the honesty in her voice. "Then we'll start slow," he said softly. "The cold's not kind to tired bones." They shared a small smile before moving on with the day. Reed fixed a door hinge that had frozen overnight. Anna tried to sew a tear in her glove with shaking hands. He noticed but didn't comment. He just pulled out an old pair of gloves from a trunk and placed them gently beside her. "You can use these," he said. "Got more than I need." Anna touched them lightly. "Thank you." The hours felt quiet but full. When Reed showed her how to check the horse's hooves, she leaned forward with careful interest. When her foot slipped on a patch of ice, Reed caught her hand quickly, steadying her before she fell. Their eyes met. Just a moment. Just a breath. But the air changed around them. "Sorry," she whispered. "No need," Reed said gently. "You did fine." By late afternoon, the clouds opened again. Snow fell thick and fast, blanketing the ranch in white. Reed called her inside. "Storm's stronger this time," he said. "Best stay close to the fire." Anna nodded, brushing snow from her coat before stepping into the warm cabin. The storm roared outside, shaking the shutters. But inside, the fire cast a soft, golden glow across the room. Reed brewed tea from pine needles and poured a cup for her. "It's not much," he said, "but it warms you up." She wrapped her hands around the tin mug. "Warmth is enough." Reed sat across from her, flipping open an old Bible with frayed edges. He read quietly, lips moving just slightly, the soft light tracing the lines on his tired face. Thunder rumbled through the mountains, and Anna flinched before she could stop herself. Reed looked up. "Storms bother you?" She nodded. "My father used to light a candle during storms," she said softly. "Said it helped the light find us." Her voice cracked a little. "After he died, I guess I stopped believing it." Reed closed the Bible slowly. "Maybe the light never stopped," he said. "Maybe you just didn't have anyone left to help you see it." Anna looked down at her hands, blinking away the sting in her eyes. "Maybe." Hours passed. Snow hammered the roof. The cabin felt small but safe. Reed placed another log on the fire. "You can stay here as long as you need," he said suddenly. She stared at him. "I don't want to be a burden." "You're not." Reed's voice was steady. "You're a person who needed help. That's enough." Her throat tightened. You've done more for me in 2 days than most people ever did in years." Reed didn't move, didn't break his gaze. "Then they didn't see you right." The storm raged harder. The hours stretched long. Anna drifted asleep on the cot near the window. Reed stayed awake by the fire, eyes on the flames, but his thoughts far away. He hadn't meant for feelings to rise in his chest, but there they were. Small, unexpected, stubborn. The kind that scared a man who had lost too much already. Yet when he looked at Anna sleeping with her hands tucked beneath her cheek, he felt something thaw inside him. Something he thought had died with his wife. Morning came with a soft glow. The storm had passed, leaving the world white and quiet. Reed went out to check on the livestock. Anna followed, her borrowed boots sinking into the snow. The mountains looked washed clean. The air felt sharp but bright. Reed pointed toward a ridge. "That's where my wife is buried," he said quietly. "She loved the sunrise from there." Anna lowered her head. "I'm sorry." Reed exhaled, a long, tired breath. "The past is just something you try not to let kill the future." They stood in silence. Then Reed turned toward her, his voice gentler than she had ever heard it. "Anna," he said, "if you want to stay longer, I won't ask questions. You don't owe me your story, but I'd like to help you write the next part if you let me." Anna's breath caught. The wind brushed her hair. Her eyes held his without fear for the first time. "I don't know how to start again," she whispered. "You don't have to," Reed said softly. "You just have to stay warm long enough to see where the road leads." Her heart beat faster, but not from fear, not anymore. Because warmth wasn't just in the fire, it was in his voice. It was in his quiet steadiness. It was in the way he looked at her like she wasn't a burden, but a beginning. The wind carried the faint scent of pine as Reed stepped a little closer. Not enough to frighten, just enough to show truth. "You're not alone anymore," he said. And for the first time in years, Anna believed it. The next morning rose soft and gold, spilling light across the valley like warm honey. Frost still clung to the fences, but the air carried a faint hint of spring. Inside Reed Mallister's small cabin, the fire glowed low, and the smell of simmering stew filled the room. Anna stood at the stove, gently stirring the pot while sunlight traced the edges of her hair. She had grown used to the quiet rhythms of the ranch. The steady whistle of the kettle. The hum of Reed's boots across wooden floors. For the first time in a long time, she felt the weight of her shoulders easing, her breaths falling gentler. Reed stepped inside from the cold, brushing snow off his shoulders. "You'll tire yourself out working this early," he said with a soft smile. Anna turned toward him. "Someone has to keep you fed," she joked lightly. Reed chuckled. It was a small sound, but warm. "Hard to work when there's someone worth working for," he murmured. Anna's heart skipped at the quiet truth behind his voice. She turned back to the stew, her cheeks warming. They sat down to eat, sharing the quiet comfort that had grown between them. Reed watched her stir honey into her tea. Anna noticed the way his eyes softened every time she smiled. After breakfast, Reed walked to the window. Sunlight touched the snow outside, making it sparkle like broken glass. "Another day or two," he said, "and the trail will clear." Anna froze. "So I'll be able to leave soon." Reed turned toward her slowly. The look on his face held something heavy, something afraid. "If that's what you want," he replied softly. Anna's hands trembled around her cup. Leaving had always been her only choice, the only way she survived. But now, standing in the warmth of that small cabin, she felt fear twist inside her. Fear of walking away from the first place she had ever felt safe. "I don't know what I want," she whispered. "All I've ever done is run. From cold, from hunger, from people who never cared. But here," she looked around at the patched curtains, the fire, the marks of a life built slowly by tired hands. "Here feels like something I never believed I'd have." Reed's breath caught. He stepped closer, his voice low. "You brought life back into this place," he said. "I thought I'd made peace with being alone after my wife died. I thought that was the only way I could survive. But then you showed up half frozen, and somehow—" he hesitated, searching for the right words. "Somehow you thawed more than the wood stove." Anna's eyes filled with tears. "You shouldn't say things like that unless you mean them." Reed reached out slowly, brushing a stray curl from her cheek. His touch was gentle, almost reverent. "I mean every word," he whispered. A quiet settled between them. Not heavy, not uncertain, just full. "What happens if I stay?" Anna asked softly. Reed swallowed hard, his voice rough with emotion. "If you stay, then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it." The words sank into her heart like warmth chasing out the last of winter. She stepped closer until their foreheads touched. Their breaths mingled, soft and trembling. Outside, the snow on the roof began to melt, dripping in slow, steady beats. Inside, something deeper melted inside them both. The days that followed felt different, lighter. The storm had passed, but its memory lingered like a reminder of where they had been and how far they had come. Anna tended the horses with Reed. She learned how to milk the stubborn old cow named Daisy. Reed taught her how to mend fences and how to listen for signs of weather in the wind. At night, they sat by the fire. Anna mended clothes while Reed told stories of the ranch he'd once built with his brother. She shared memories she had kept hidden. Her mother's lullabies, the fear she'd carried alone for so long. Each story took a piece of pain from her and placed it gently in his hands. And each time, Reed held her hand afterward, steady and warm, like a promise that she didn't have to carry anything alone anymore. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the mountains, painting the sky in gold, Reed looked at Anna with an expression she'd never seen before. Soft, full, certain. "You were never broken," he said, "just waiting for someone to see you." Her voice trembled. "And you saw me. Like the sunrise over that ridge," he said quietly, "clear as day." Tears shimmered in her eyes. Reed reached out and took her hand. Their fingers intertwined like they had always belonged together. Days turned to weeks. The valley changed. Snow melted into green. Wildflowers began to bloom. Life breathed again across the land. One morning, Anna stood inside the cabin, watching Reed through the window as he worked outside. The man who had once moved with the weight of grief now walked with something lighter in his steps. Hope, maybe even joy. When he stepped inside, brushing off dust and snow, Anna met him with a look that held her heart in it. "Reed," she said quietly, "I think I found my shelter." Reed froze, breath catching. A smile grew across his face, slow and full. "And I found my heart," he replied. He stepped closer, taking her hands in his rough, warm ones. Their eyes held each other in the golden light of morning. "You remember what I said that first night?" Reed whispered. Anna nodded softly. "You told me you need love, and I need shelter." He brushed his thumb across her cheek. "Turns out I needed shelter too. I just didn't know it was you." Anna let out a trembling breath. "And I didn't know love could feel like coming home." Reed pulled her gently into his arms, holding her as if the world outside didn't matter anymore. The fire crackled behind them. The windows glowed with sunlight. Their hearts, once frozen by loss and fear, warmed together. Outside, the mountain wind carried their laughter across the valley, across the thawing river, across the greening plains. Love had survived the cold, and this time it was home to stay.